At some point, I started having migraine headaches. Doctors still don't know why, and anyway, they don't have any medication for it.
By the age of 13, I already had quite a history: theft, moral decay, and all sorts of perversion. I had already experienced a lot.
I was in a completely wild stage of my life. My world had collapsed because I worshipped my family and loved ones, and then my object of adoration was gone. This drove me to seek the help of a hospital. It wasn't a typical hospital, but a special one, a psychiatric hospital. I got stuck in such a vicious circle of these problems, these misfortunes, illnesses, and failures in life.
When you realize why people get ill, when you see the cause as it is linked with a consequence, then you can explain the cause of the illness and the person recovers. Only the person himself can make a choice to recover and overcome the illness. He only needs to find the opportunity. It is the opportunity to understand the laws of the universe. It is the ability to change one's world outlook. It is the opportunity to change one's character, control one's emotions.
All of us have our problems in one way or another, and anyone can find a way to solve each and every problem. But not everyone knows how to do that. Usually people do not think about what will happen to them. Your whole life looks like an endless train of events. We run through life without giving any thought to what our actions might actually lead to.
From childhood, I wished that I could understand what I live for. What is the meaning of life? Then I realized that if you want to understand the meaning of life, it is necessary to get to know the world. When you understand the world, you kind of absorb it and your consciousness expands, permeating all the world and becomes interconnected with it. In other words, it is like it's a particular fusion with the universe, a perception of the world. A man does not orientate himself with the world around him. He knows. He has heard about the commandments, he has read the Bible, the sacred books, but he cannot put it into practice. For several thousands of years, people have known that they mustn't hate, offend others. They cannot be displeased with fate, but people do not understand this knowledge. They cannot use it. We live in order to discover the world, to unite ourselves with it, to experience complete fusion with the universe. And in this regard, when you feel this impulse constantly, when you invest this energy, it feels like destiny leads you to where you need to be.
Sergey Lazarev is the author of numerous books about humankind's spiritual path and development. For many years, he has been studying the interrelationships between the internal state of mind and destiny. In his books, he talks about how human actions affect his health, his future, and the future of his children. His ideas have been developed into a system of one's attitude to life and determination of man's place in the universe. Sergey Nikolaevich's books are the collection of more than 20 years of his research experience in the field of synthesis between science and religion, the marriage of important information which forms the universal system of knowledge.
People do not know the meaning of life. People do not know how to communicate and lose the ability to do so. People do not understand how to communicate with the world around them, how to treat themselves. Probably that's why there is a great demand for my books, my research, because in order to act appropriately and feel comfortable at the table, one has to know table etiquette. It is necessary to know traffic rules if one wants to drive a car. If someone wants to live and live happily, he needs to know the laws of the universe, which in general are presented in the form of commandments, and concerning them there is nothing specifically said. That's why my research is related to how one can learn to see himself, understand life, see the world around him.
This is a film about completely different people with their complex situations in life and the system of knowledge which they start to apply to their lives. This is a film about a new philosophy. It will show you another side of the world. Daughter of the director of the Massandra winery, who was raised in the spirit of socialism, From childhood, she had been preparing to step in for her father to fill his position. But youth and first love turned her life upside down. Within a week of meeting her future husband, Svetlana decided to leave everything behind and be with him in Moscow.
Basically, I wasn't brought up with bad principles. Help others, give to others. Well, I thought that I was a very good person. I'm a good student. I listen to my parents. I don't drink, don't smoke, well, an angel, just an angel. And for some reason, my beloved husband suddenly leaves me.
In this difficult time, Svetlana was left alone with her 2 children. And for a long time, she could not come to terms with life after the breakup with her husband.
Despair is the most dangerous thing for a woman. Well, when you lose sight of your goals, faith, hope, that's it. Your whole world has fallen apart, and this is a very disastrous influence on children. For a few years, I was, like a zombie. I fed the children, they were nourished, dressed, and everything was taken care of. But how they lived, what they experienced on the inside, the children experience pain on the inside, which they cannot cope with. First of all, they don't even realize where it came from. It hurts them. They're feeling terrible. And at this moment, they leave school and are offered drugs, starting with weed, then pills.
Svetlana came to herself after the breakup, when her son had already spent 7 years using heroin. A lot of things had disappeared from the house. She tried to rehabilitate her son, but nothing helped. His addiction to drugs was too strong. As a result, he was imprisoned for theft.
You know what? For a girl from a good family, an excellent student, walking through a prison, then go on a date, then visiting a prison colony, to go through all of this, well, it's like in the movies. Actually now I remember it as if it happened to someone else. Here in the prison, when he was in custody, there were 23 people in the cell, which was designed for 6 inmates. So I ran and spent the last of my money to buy at least something to give him so that he could put at least something into a fund for his own protection. For this payment, the others could let him lay down to sleep because he was allowed only to sit near the wall. That's how proud women get cured of their pride.
Unfortunately, Misha did not manage to overcome the addiction. In some time after his release from prison, he continued to use drugs and eventually died of an overdose.
And you know what? If I hadn't read the books, if I hadn't understood this whole system, I do not know how I would have survived.
Now everything has gotten better. The younger son and his wife have a son together. Now Svetlana is a grandmother, and her life is being built little by little around her grandson. Her relationship with ex-husband, which was extremely complex and ambiguous, became a relationship built on trust. Maybe not everything in her life is going smoothly, but now Svetlana has faith. She has faith that everything is going to be okay because she understood what was most important.
We ourselves create our own problems. Well, with our improper thoughts and attitudes to life, we create them ourselves. But in fact, life is extremely simple. There's one law of the boomerang, in which what you give to the world, you get about the same back. Just as it was 1,000,000 years ago, so it is today.
Amin Sukasyan moved from Armenia to Russia more than 20 years ago. Here he is now getting his 2nd degree at MSU, graduating from a master's course in the economics department. His life changed dramatically several times, but studying the system helped him find the right path.
If I start from childhood, I was born in quite a happy family. My father, back then, he was a young specialist. He occupied good positions. Then after, the collapse of the Soviet Union, he became a banker. From my childhood, I have felt complete as a person, in a good family. And with all that in mind, I had the opinion that I could do anything. Everything was fine. Moreover, I did nothing properly because somehow I wanted to do nothing. And that was that. By the age of 13, I already had quite a rap sheet. There was theft, moral decay, all sorts of, well, perversions. Many things which I had done.
Not many people know about the sad pages of his past, which he doesn't like to talk about or remember. However, they are the things which have played a huge role in his life. Amin would have lived on in the same way, aimlessly wasting money and burning through life, but soon after everything changed dramatically. His father, a bank manager, was in prison for fraud.
It was a big blow to our family. Well, I became an adult overnight because there was my mother, 2 sisters. I had to hold everything together somehow. And thank God that we got through it all and kept the family together. And with a strong relationship.
The necessity for him to step up and become the breadwinner of the family at 16 years old forced Amin to change his philosophy on life. Instead of parties, entertainment and bad company, his time would be occupied with work, taking care of the family and the books now. Sergey Lazarev's books. Reading lectures and seminars gave the young man the foundation that has allowed him to form a completely different character.
It's just helped me to prove to myself that I can change myself physically, morally, mentally, and spiritually. And now I look at myself, in fact, I've changed a lot. My character has changed and my relationships have changed. The very fact that I'm sitting here in the dorm of Moscow State University and also a mathematician is an amazing reality for me. I want to be a good scientist, discovering the world. I mean, this is all real. Anything is possible. And it's all due to these books because it's as if they were written as step-by-step instructions on how to do everything and why you have to do everything this way.
Several times a month, SN Lazarev conducts workshops and meetings with readers in different cities around the world. These people come to get answers to their questions, share their life experience, and find the right path in a variety of situations. These workshops and lectures are not religious meetings, but an opportunity to understand how the world is organized. We do not always realize how closely our life is linked with our feelings and the laws of the universe. On the way we begin to understand the world, and finally the way we think influences our health and our destiny.
We are used to living in a myth. We've stopped thinking about the meaning of what was said and even have gone into the meaning of what we have heard. We are always looking for the recipe of happiness or instructions for cures, unwilling to make an effort. We do not understand what working hard to change yourself means. The lectures of Lazarev's workshops are always the fundamental principles of our existence and how this knowledge can be put into practice. Love is the most powerful feeling that underlies all of our senses. The Bible says God is love. This means that God is the soul of the universe. And if the goal of any believer is union with God, fusion with the Creator, it means that if we wish to implement our main purpose in life, first we must take care of our souls. If we first take care of the soul, open it, then we get closer to God, because the soul develops only through love. The more love that is in the soul, the more open our feelings are. Our mind becomes brighter, and more physical capacities become available to us. In the end, everything comes down to a main idea, a main structure, a principle core to life: love. The Bible says God is love. That's why without the idea of the love for God, in the end, there is no functioning healing system, and it comes to a dead end. I understand that very clearly. The thing that we consider evil may be good, not now, but tomorrow, the next day. So there exist the concepts of good and evil on the external level. At a subtle plane, good and evil are virtually indistinguishable because we do not know how it will affect the consequences. But generally, as to more or less real categories of good and evil, if you feel the lack of love, you begin to worship the animal instincts, and you begin to worship the luxuries. And then you'll steal, rob, kill, fornicate. And this is a hell of an evil. Why? Because your soul has turned away from God and started to worship instincts. In this sense, good, it is love, And evil, it is the lack of kindness and walking away from love. That's why it is not necessary to eradicate the evil, it is necessary to build love in the soul, and then the evil will disappear by itself.
Lectures and workshops provide readers with an opportunity to ask questions directly, and for Sergey Nikolaevich himself, it is an opportunity to communicate with the people for which all the research is performed. After all, new books are not created by themselves, it is daily, draining and hard work. And not only author's attitude is important for that work, but also the understanding of the information by those for whom these books are written. At home, in the country, on a walk, or while enjoying your favorite activity, the idea and understanding can come at any time. It is important to manage to comprehend it and stick to it.
By analyzing thousands and thousands of cases, I have come to the conclusion that human aggression, it is associated with an increased attachment to some aspect of life. I mean, if a person gets caught onto something, according to my terminology, then the slightest destabilization makes them excessively and painfully concerned. Caught on money, becoming a miser, they cannot get through the loss of money. They are afraid, hateful, and everything connected with money becomes a sore subject and a source of sickness for them. Caught on a relationship, becoming jealous, they are afraid, suspicious, jealous, hateful, offended, discouraged, and now this obsession becomes a source of illness. I mean that I have digressed from an aggressive emotions to understanding that addiction to various aspects of human happiness is the source of the illness.
Sometimes having a lot of accumulated knowledge, we just do not understand how to apply it. Therefore, for students, it is particularly important to have practical advice on how to heal yourself, how to improve your destiny, and how to help a loved one.
For years, my family has existed in an affluent state and was more or less stable. Then my uncle died tragically. All the family had let him down. He was an alcoholic. Then my grandmother on my mother's side, and everything went downhill from there. All the relatives were compromised. They began to divide the inheritance like vultures. My mother ended up involved in a long legal involvement, which has not ended yet. We still cannot divide the inheritance. Half of the relatives involved in this litigation are already dead. At that time, I got married to my classmate and gave birth to a child. Pregnancy and childbirth were complicated. During the pregnancy, my husband got together with a colleague at work. In the end, I found out about this situation, suffered for 2 years. We started having problems with my daughter at 3 months, not eating or gaining weight. At the moment, I'm not divorced. I live with my daughter. Mum and Dad come to see me. I'm the only breadwinner. I've met a good, kind man, I think, but we are different. I'm tall and he's shorter than me. I'm skinny and he's overweight. I'd love to know what law have we done wrong, why our family is becoming extinct. Here she is tall and beautiful. Here he is short and overweight. Well, that's all. Life did not work out. This is called the theme of happy fate, the theme of pride. It's called the worship of the second instinct, when the family line is vanishing. This is pride going through the family. When a strong jealousy is infesting the family, that is, they don't ever get married or all the men quickly meet the grave. If men in the family do not live long, it means that there is a jealous, obtrusive woman. If the whole family is dying out, the cause is a proud woman. So what is the cause here? We are observing here just a theme. Pay attention. What is pride? It is not only the feeling of excellence, not only contempt and arrogance, but also self-abasement, self-contempt. It's avidity, it's insincerity, it's greed. All of this is pride. So when among relatives has appeared the opportunity to redeem an inheritance, and all the relatives start to hate each other, they can resist the instinct of self-preservation. And what do we come to here? All the relatives get together to find out how to save the girl. There must be a humiliating fate. The husband cheats on her. And pay attention to the girl's name. The parents intuitively call her Victory. Hooray, we won. No, you lost. I mean, it all depends on your perspective of the situation. What is pessimism? This is the inability to enjoy life. This is it, the desire to receive more and give less. Therefore, the proud man always wishes to consume, not to give. When there is love, then there is excess energy, and you are looking for where to apply it. When you turn away from the love, there is a lack of energy. You are looking for where to take it from, to put it mildly. And then starts the envy and all the rest. So basically everything is quite simple when a woman learns to love. A loved one. It is an opportunity. It is the first place, the point at which you can apply your love. And only then it is the point at which you can receive pleasure, wealth, and so on and so forth. My advice to everyone doing well so far: do not wait. Because now we all have a problem. There is a problem for everyone in the future. So check out how your soul feels and make adequate conclusions. I'm getting the signal that our time is running out. There are so many still unanswered questions. But the most important thing is not the number of questions I replied to, but the direction in which we are moving. And in this regard, I am very glad. I can feel that the aura is shining. That's all. Thank you. Goodbye. The meaning of life is to be happy. No one wants to be unhappy. That's why the meaning of life is in attaining happiness. This is first. The second, what is happiness itself? Happiness is not only a healthy body, it is not only a healthy mind, it is also a healthy soul. True happiness is when the soul loves, when people have loved ones. You love when your senses are filled. Therefore, no matter what physical aspects are possessed by a person, it is a part of happiness. No matter what spiritual aspects, money, power, ability, or talent are possessed by a person, it is just one of the components of happiness. True happiness lies in the depth of feelings, in the disclosure of the soul. When a man's soul is happy, he will be inevitably happy in these spiritual and physical aspects. It is love for God itself that provides the highest energy, which allows the soul to open up and be happy, to fill, to revive feelings, to make them deeper. Deep, strong feelings give birth to the developed consciousness and ultimately strengthen the body. To sum it all up, we can say only one thing. The meaning of human existence is to be happy, but the core of happiness, the root and the meaning of any kind of happiness, is to increase the love for God. It is the revelation of the soul in all its variety and versatility. Then happiness, little by little, descends to the spiritual and the physical level. And all these three aspects of happiness, the body, mind, and soul, eventually live in love. Love keeps them and they come from it.
Yelena Soskova's family ideal is completely her doing, but in order to achieve it, Yelena had to go through many trials during childhood. Difficult trials, but unavoidable.
It seems to be a normal family. I came home and everything was okay, but occasionally I wound up in a company where people smoked, took drugs. I saw it all. It seemed to me very strange that my parents, and other people perceived it as a bad thing. Drugs, that's okay. He took a pill. He's feeling cool now. When you're constantly, hanging out with this kind of crowd, where people smoke weed, and take pills, I just decided one day, I thought, this is what I can do. Not just take a drug to make myself feel good, but to boost my consciousness into a different plane and really pray like I wanted to back then and cleanse my soul.
By that time, Yelena had read a lot and she knew about the system. But knowledge is one thing and its application in life is quite another. A person should not interpret knowledge how it is suitable to their current situation. There is a necessity for a high moral responsibility. Otherwise, there comes an inevitable reckoning.
One day it led me into the hospital, and the hospital was not an ordinary one, but a psychiatric hospital. I faced the reality. When I got to the hospital, my glasses fell off, rose-coloured, purple-coloured, black-coloured, white-coloured. I had to face the real world, which I wasn't expecting. I didn't expect it at all. And seriously, what Sergey Nikolaevich said, I did not believe it. At first, in the beginning, you don't believe it. It looks like, no, it's not like that. Everything is okay. When I got to the hospital, I realized that, yes, everything wasn't as cool as it seemed to be.
But with the help of her family and friends, with the help of friends and the faith in her abilities, and a desire to become once again such as she was before, Alyana was able to overcome everything. And even more, she was able to achieve her goal, which she had dreamed of since her childhood.
When I came back in the beginning, I had such a difficult period of adaptation to life in general because I had already had a kind of negative perception. That is, it seemed to me that I could achieve nothing in my life. I could not control my personal life because all of my friends already had, friends, boyfriends, guys, but I couldn't do anything, as if everyone was saying to me, you are doomed to be eternal single, you are doing everything wrong, and you will never have a family. I went to the workshop, I took notes. He told me these words, you have two options now to choose from with that baggage you are carrying, either the monastery or prostitution. Choose for yourself. If you want to have a family and children, you have to work hard. Work, work, work. I have such a specific purpose. My family has to be a presentable family. That is, there can't be any divorce. For me, that's a reality that my parents divorced. I always wanted to have my own family. I wanted my children to live with their father and mother. I was lucky, very lucky. But one day I met, my husband.
Alyana met him purely accidentally at a concert. Feelings developed between them. Alyana knew Daniel would be her husband and they would have a strong family. The fact that they lived in different cities didn't stop them. They just wanted to be together.
Everyone dreams only about the prince and don't usually think about what you should be, or the princess too, and you have to be able to do everything, but everyone thinks, I'm so beautiful, I will succeed. It's actually nothing like that. It's very hard to have a normal family, to have normal children, normal husband, to have a good relationship, to have love in the family, to have a soul, to live in harmony. This is a permanent job. I'm happy that I have such an opportunity to live within this process. I have a daily opportunity to change and mature a little, to go to the next level.
Very serious since her childhood, strong inside, Marina has always been a leader amongst children. It was impossible to move her off track. To reach the point and to understand the reasons and basis of everything has become her habit.
I was a very organized person, someone who has to have everything under control. Very tight control. Everything should be under control. Everything has to be under control. It should be only the best, perfectionism, school graduation with honors, university graduation cum laude with distinction. Everything always has to be the best of the best. At some point I started to get migraine headaches. It is the problem with blood vessels, something like vessels in the brain. Single-sided pain. The doctors still do not know why, and they do not have any kind of medication for it. In addition to migraines, at some point, I began to experience high blood pressure. I do not understand why. I started to suffer a lot, heartthrob, arrhythmia, irregularity of the heart. At one moment, it beat like crazy. Thub-a-lup, 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 and bang, it stopped. And the silence. Then just lub-dub. 2 of severe beats, and then started to beat again. And it got so far that the arrhythmia was so severe that sometimes I could not even get out of bed. That was my heart fluttering. And I noticed that when I read Lazarev's books, there was something going on with this pain. And following his advice in the first books, I just started to pray when the pain came, and I was saying, please forgive me. I realize, I understand, I remember what I have done. I won't do that anymore. And little by little, I noticed that the pain became shorter. The first, the second, was when I realized the moment when it started to appear. And at that very moment, I immediately took the book and started to read, started to pray, and the pain receded. And now I have a recent medical test of 2010, which I did. This diagnosis is gone. I do not have anarrhythmia or prolapse anymore. This is all a result of that work.
In parallel with her health problems, Marina tried to treat her daughter. As for any mother, her children's health was much more important than her own.
By the age of 18, I had pushed her to the point of serious illness, interstitial nephritis, dysmetabolic nephropathy, pollen fever, a very severe allergy, and she had experienced hearing loss. But by the age of 18, her hearing loss had completely disappeared, and she can hear quite well, sometimes even better than I would like it to be. And she had to be transferred to the adult disability group, and we were going there already. I called her doctor, a nephrologist pediatrician who had been caring for her for years. With my 18-year-old daughter, we went to the doctor. And when we stepped into the office, well, you should have seen the doctor's eyes. They became huge. And Tatiana Ivanovna said, "Is that Lisa? Is that sickly, pathetic-looking girl?" our doctor said, who did not expect to see such a blooming, beautiful, healthy girl, 5 feet 7 inches tall with beautiful hazel eyes, a true Russian beauty. So she said, "Mom, you deserve a monument in your honor. Everything that we do in this life, we are doing by the will of the Creator. Therefore, we must not condemn the past, just as we should not be afraid of the future." In everyday life, I had very little joy. It seemed to me that life wasn't so interesting. My life has developed very poorly. I had a lot of problems, and I was going round in circles with those problems, misfortunes, illness, failures in life, and the doldrums of mine when I could not, in general, obviously while having no joy, look at these problems with joy. And when I read Sergey Nikolaevich's books, I saw that he gives specific instructions on how I could work on myself to improve myself and improve my life.
It is a very important decision to be looking for joy in a dreary routine or in the most terrible event. Changing herself, Tatiana began to understand that people around her have changed their attitude towards her too.
Well, the first changes took place very quickly. Literally, within several months, there were obvious changes. When my attitude changed, you know, it's the most important thing that the problems remained, but my attitude changed. And, believe it or not, when your internal state is improving, then the world around you is little by little beginning to improve. I think that her life in principle, kind of in general and relatively, has straightened out. She has become very calm, and now she reacts in general more calm in life situations. And it helps me too that I have no conflict with her, because she just reacts calmly. It's kind of an inner peace.
And when the situation became more favorable, and Tatiana was able to feel happiness, life offered her a new trial. Her daughter was diagnosed with a severe health issue, infertility.
Of course, it's not just her concern. It is the continuation of the family. It is a very serious problem for the family, and it's probably my fault too. Well, that she cannot have children. I mean, the doctor said that she didn't even have a chance. That's why she went to see Sergey Nikolaevich. When she returned from the doctor visit all swollen from crying, she did not want to talk to me for 2 days. She was extremely upset because she let me know that it was shock therapy which made her infertile. Suddenly, it was a turning point in her mind when she all of a sudden began to understand her problems. Of course, I remembered him because he was fairly harsh. And, in just a word or two, he gave me the opportunity to understand how I can change my consciousness.
Sometimes, in order to help yourself or a close person, you have to step up to the very edge, spell out the situation as it is, without fear and without gimmicks, without hiding anything. Only at this moment, many of us can really understand our own problem.
Because, well, as the saying goes, joy in general indicates that the person has some progress inside, that they can criticize less, condemn less, see less of the negatives in life, and try to see some positive moments and treat people better. I mean, well, that's a good attitude and kind of more tolerance to people. That's the most important thing that she could do. And here we are. My daughter, after 2 years safely by herself, gave birth to her own daughter. My granddaughter is now 3 years old. Of course, I understand that problems still exist. She's got problems. My granddaughter's got some problems. But anyway, there is a chance, there is an opportunity to continue to work, and there is, generally speaking, a chance to improve the situation in our family.
When we come to people with love, when we communicate with them as we would like them to communicate with us, then we come to understanding and harmony, while the resentment and aggression disappear.
I am very happy. Of course, I understand that there is a lot to hold in the future. But you know, this happiness, it kind of no longer depends on outside problems. You know, it can happen when a person is happy, and when someone is making him upset or angry, he is losing that feeling. I mean, it is necessary to achieve such a state of inner harmony, peace, and happiness when, inner feeling and happiness received from each, maybe minute, every moment. And whatever happens, whatever the relationship, it is always necessary to understand that it is given to us as a trial and not intended to tread us down somehow or humiliate or offend. Well, yeah, it is a test, it is a task which we must complete. It's just how to get out of this situation so that you would not lose your inner harmony and happiness.
Each person goes through his journey of life by himself, and sooner or later on this journey, he faces the questions of who I am in fact, what I believe in, whom do I love. It doesn't matter when a person touches the theme of spirituality for the first time. It is important that they have managed to understand and how it affects their life now. Alexei has worked for 19 years in the Ministry of the Russian Federation for Civil Defense, Emergency Management and Natural Disaster Response. Today he is a major, he is 37 and he is raising a daughter.
The spiritual path, well, it started already long ago. The first experience for me is, of course, linked to my grandmother, Grandma. She prayed at home, she used to take me to church, and the first impression of church itself as the living form being in my consciousness, I experienced only at the age of 13, not earlier. When I was 13 years, we arrived with Grandma, and I really wanted to cry.
Often in the pursuit of personal happiness, man being knowledgeable forgets that there are those close to him, living next to him, and that each of them has their own life, their own personal quest and a spiritual path. There is no husband without a wife. There is no happiness without fellow man's happiness. Man goes on a long journey working on himself before he realizes that happiness is when those around you are happy, and now it depends very much on him too.
And what I strive after, I strive for peace in my heart. Yeah, peace of soul for my wife. In spite of all my ambitions, in spite of my wrongs, malicious and vicious attempts, I strive for some kind of order from my perspective.
People start living together. Their selfish interests and demands on each other begin to creep out too. They have the option either to change themselves and yet either create a family or to break away and look for, another husband, partner. And you can't be certain that another one will be someone better.
Personal spiritual growth cannot be separated from family growth. After all, the family also requires spiritual growth and common ground. But Alexei's family is not doing so well.
I've always treated him well, with love, with kindness, with warmth. But when in return you get rigidity and coldness, it certainly cannot bring satisfaction. I understand that there are women who sometimes just need to be put in their place, but this certainly doesn't concern us. After all, no one offends him, no one humiliates him, no one demands anything from him. All the wars come to an end at the negotiating table.
Family life is a difficult thing, but if a person cares about the family, then for the sake of his close ones, he is willing to change himself. And this is not even work, but life, such as it is with sadness and joy, love, forgiveness and bitterness.
The family and the husband are given by God. I don't get upset anymore. I don't make scandals and try to understand that first off it's just me. That means that I have to somehow change my attitude so that, and you know, I just begin to take it sort of easier in general.
Sergey Nikolaevich urges us all to be happy. In order to be happy, you just need to stop putting up any fences on your own way to this happiness. There are a lot of problems in this life, a lot of all sorts of problems that you have to solve, that are hovering around us like a kind of swarm, but happiness shouldn't depend on this. The presence of happiness, it is still there for everyone. Someone forgets about it, denies it, saying, "Oh, I'm not happy there. There are bastards all around." They shouldn't do that. I can experience problems, but I'm happy, alive, safe and sound. I'm already happy.
Nothing on earth can be better than to wander through the world with friends. Troubles cannot scare away those who are friends. All roads are precious to us. For most of us, the world consists only of what we see and feel. We do not even want to even suggest that there is something in the world that goes beyond the limits of our world outlook.
In the beginning, my attitude was completely skeptical, as official science denies the whole thing. So I thought that there is a world and it consists of, let's say, molecules, protons, electrons, and so on. I mean, there are some laws of physics, chemistry. Well, they actually rule the world. But this system, I thought, is some unfounded theoretical fiction. But not too long after school, I gave some serious thought to this system. I entered college. I mean, it was already time, so I entered it. And despite the fact that I studied well at school, I mean, I got only A's and B's, and there were no problems at the institute. Well, to my surprise, I started to experience serious problems with studies. I mean, I just couldn't study, and that's it. I mean, there were conflicts with the teachers, and in general, I could not understand and did not know all the subjects. It was like a feeling like after the first grade, I just went straight to college. I could not find any explanations for this. As a result, I naturally left college because there was nothing for me to do with that problem. And therefore, a huge hole appeared in my life. That is, a loss of purpose. I didn't know where to go.
In search of explanations of what happened to him, Denis returned to Sergey Nikolaievitch's system, which he had rejected previously. Unexpectedly, following the author's simple advice, he began to succeed in working on his character.
I had some idea that the fact was maybe my character, that I'm more cruel to people. I mean, well, too selfish, ambitious. I mean that my character does not correspond to, it may be, I don't know, the concepts. After a while, first of all, maybe after a few months, I started to notice that my character just started to kind of change. I became softer, somehow more tolerant to people. I mean, I had less conflicts with people, relationships in the family became better. I quite often had conflicts with my mother. I mean, there are conflicts even, well, based on nothing. I couldn't even understand why we fight.
By changing himself, Denis was able to change the relationship with those close to him, and then his position. A few years later, he was again able to go to college and thus fulfill his dream, to study nuclear physics.
From the very beginning, in principle, everything went more or less smoothly. All the tests, all the knowledge. I really began to understand, to write good papers. When the time came, to pass tests during exam week, I passed all the exams and tests, A's and B's. I was finished with a scholarship.
Following the changes in his character and studies, Dennis has changed and outlook on life has changed.
I no longer have a purely materialistic view of the world. I make no question that there is a material world, our physics, chemistry, and there is a world, well, I do not know if I can call it spiritual. Let's just say there are some higher laws. Well, all of the universe exists according to these laws. It kind of lives and so on. Yes, of course, the science denies the existence of all these ideas, well, the religious aspects of our life. But actually, many scientists now, in our time, inevitably, perhaps even against the grain, come to the conclusion that our universe is not so simple, that it can't be explained from just a purely material point of view. The whole structure of the world.
Confrontation has always accompanied science and religion, but it is gradually disappearing too. Combining scientific knowledge and the spiritual world, mankind will have even more opportunities to get closer to a new level of progress in the way our civilization develops.
I started out as a painter. People bought my paintings. And then I decided to temporarily go into extrasensories, psychology, the study of the field structures. And I'm considering my current occupation actually as just a hobby. In order to create a good picture, to understand what it is, what a man is, it is necessary for it to be the same thing. It is necessary that the feelings are brought to life, and this feeling creates some sort of understandings, experiences, and gets to put into practice. When you make a picture, you create your own world. In order to create a world, you need to give energy. You need to take it from something. In the end, it turns out that the creative process makes you discover the depth of your own ego, unfold better, allowing you to perceive the world around you. If we compare the universe to a tree, then life is the root of the tree, and the man is probably the trunk, and all other forms of life are branches, leaves, and so on. A person is, one might say, the leader going in the front of the huge herd, and man is the first link of evolution, which doesn't have to destroy all other forms of life, but to wind them up and lift them up to his level. My research system, in principle, is the map of the world, the map of life, the rules of the road of life that can benefit anyone without falling back to my books, to my name, to my last name, and my personality. When the system is already working by itself, the author is not necessary. If, in short, it can be said in one word, he teaches us to love. And how to do it. It's already spelled out in 25 volumes.
When I first opened the book, I just went nuts. There were all the answers to my questions. I was, in shock and had the sensation that I was in flight because everything was so clear, so accessible, and that was just exactly what I was missing. That which, just all the small details which I couldn't understand. This became for me probably a new reference point of my life, a kind of turning point. Because I have completely changed my world outlook.